Never judge a book by its cover, chapter 3. Tamales in turquoise neon light illuminating the front of a huge remodernised building, with a poorly lit car park offset to the rear right, hosting a number of vehicles from average run-of-the-mill motors to more impressive flash cars parked closer to the building. How things had changed, Steve thought, as he remembered the car park to be an arena for some of his early teenage battles as a wild young squaddy who would have taken on the world for the price of a pint of lager, or just for the hell of it. He contemplated the past as he stood at the foot of the concrete nightclub steps, where he, Bob and Eddie once stood too, full of ale, like the good, the bad and the ugly, three amigos, cradling half-wrapped doner kebabs and carrier bags stuffed with off-licence booze, ready to fight anyone who dared to challenge them. In front of the colossal glazed double doors were two doormen, both with the gaitered giants and jawlines like Cassius Clay. A considerable queue of mainly teenagers was forming, and the bouncers, in Steve's opinion, were acting like performing circus oafs, parading themselves around in front of the doorway and turning people away at random, mostly of the male gender. Steve made his way through the crowd and up the steps. He hailed the bouncers as he headed straight for the door. "I've got an appointment with Frank. All right, lads." One of them stood in the path, obstructing his entry, and placed a hand on his shoulder, taking a firm grip. "Where the fuck do you think you're going, Squire?" he barked aggressively in a deep Cockney accent. Steve turned his head to face the other doorman, then calmly turned back to the larger of the two. He paused, then answered, "The fucking moon. Now take your fucking fat hand off me before I break the bastard." On hearing this, the Londoner sharply withdrew his arm. Just then Bob shouted from the foyer, "Oi, chill out, gents. He's with me. Besides, you might end up as workmates later on this evening, so play nice." The biggest of the doormen stepped aside to allow Steve through, murmuring an apology. "Soz, Chief." "No sweat," answered Steve, unaware as he crossed the threshold that night that things were never to be the same again. In fact, his life was about to change dramatically over the weeks to come, and he had no choice. Destiny was at the wheel. The interior decor had clearly improved over the last several years. A marble effect tiled floor stretched to the base of a wide stairwell, bordered by burgundy carpets and tasteful velour-papered walls. On the right, an inset cloakroom was buzzing with business, taking people's coats, as the three electronic cash registers to the left were systematically eating their way through the queue of punters, which was slowly but surely filtering through the system and up the stairs to the club's floors and bars. Bob escorted Steve through the bustling herds of socialisers and up one flight of steps to the main hall. There were drinks bars along each free wall and strobe lights reflecting off enormous old-fashioned mirrored balls suspended over an otherwise dimly lit dance floor. In the far left corner was a disc jockey in a booth, with a staircase at the side that led to the balcony directly above. Steve followed Bob around the outer edge of the dance floor, then up the stairs to an office, located at the end of the balcony. A sign on the door of the office clearly stated in bold capital letters, "Management only." Bob winked at Steve, then forcefully tapped on the door, and a voice from inside beckoned them to enter. As they did so, Bob began his introductions. "Hi Frank, this is Steve Campbell, the bloke I was telling you about. Steve, this is Frank Travis, the guy behind Tamales." Frank stubbed out a thick aromatic cigar into a bulky crystal ashtray and firmly shook Steve's hand. "How's it going, kid? I hear you're just out the army." Steve felt humbled, as if he were being introduced to a new sergeant major. He felt that Frank's presence alone commanded immediate respect. "Yeah, that's right. Pleased to meet you, Mr. Travis." Frank released Steve's hand, took out another cigar from an ornamental box and lit it with a brass petrol lighter. "So what are your plans now you're in Civvy Street then?" "Well, I definitely intend to grow my sideburns, but ultimately make myself enough money to retire in the sun somewhere when I've still got plenty of life in me." Frank smirked. "A sense of humour and ambitious. I like this kid. Done any door work before, son?" "A little, yeah, but not anywhere that compares to this place." "Do you think you can handle it?" "Sure, I reckon so. That's if you give me a chance. I won't let you down." Frank's smirk grew. "Confident as well, eh? I reckon you've got what it takes. Thanks, Mr. T. When can I start? And keen. Endless talents. Please, call me Frank. Mr. T makes me sound like a big black chap with a Mohican and too much tacky gold. Mine's more classy, don't you think? Frank chuckled. He was an older man of 59 years. He was well dressed and charismatic, with a round friendly face and a slightly balding head with dark grey hair. His hands were the size of shovels, with fingers like sausages, dressed in gold rings and sovereigns. He wore a fire-engine red carnation on the lapel of his pinstripe double-breasted suit. He looked at Bob, nodded in agreement, then back to Steve. You're hired, kid. Welcome aboard. Start tonight. It's only a trial period, mind, so don't let me down, he warned in his refined black country accent. I won't, Frank. Thanks a lot. Bob showed Steve out of the office and directed him to the staff room. There's some kit hanging up in here. It's about your size, so if you want to go and get changed, then I'll see you outside the VIP lounge in about 10-15 minutes. Alright, pal? Yeah, sound, Bob. Cheers, mate, answered Steve gratefully. Once in his new uniform, consisting of a jet black suit encasing an also black thin roll neck shirt, Steve was already waiting when Bob arrived. He had acquainted himself with one of the Neanderthals that he had met earlier on the door. His name was Dean Murray, and known by most as Muttley, as a coincidence of his bronchial asthmatic wheeze whilst laughing. Plus, quite handily, it virtually rhymes with Murray. He seemed different to the previous encounter. Steve thought he didn't appear so arrogant, and he thought it was blatant that he wasn't the sharpest tool in the box, or at least that was the impression he got. But still, he was a lot friendlier now than Steve had presumed he would be before reminding himself never to judge a book by its cover. Muttley was overdue a coffee break, so Bob fell him out and took the opportunity to give Steve his first briefing. Right, kid, here's your orders for tonight. All you've got to do is stand around looking good, basically, bird watching, and making sure no one kicks off or gets too daft. That's pretty much it. You can stretch your legs between the Jimmy Dean bar on your right and the bogs on the landing. Don't worry about entry to the lounge. The two blokes on the door inside sort all that out. But if someone who ain't welcome tries getting in, they might ask you to show them to the door. Don't happen often, very rare if it does. But like I said, they pretty much look after themselves, that lot. Bob was about to walk off, then stopped. Oh, Steve, by the way,